AITA for wanting a divorce my husband doesn't want and risking no relationship with his child. My husband, 33M, and I, 30F, have been married for 11 years. We've lived all over the place because he's in the military, and over time, I've come to realize that my marriage has become an endless cycle of burnout, guilt, and unmet needs. We got married after dating for just 6 months. Looking back, I can see how impulsive it was. But at the time, I was in love and convinced that we could handle anything together. My husband grew up in a tough household. His mom was a single parent, and he had sisters he helped take care of. During those early conversations, he'd say things like, "I know what it's like to see women carry too much." He assured me he'd always be an equal partner. I believed him. The first few years of our marriage were mostly fine. I mean, he's always been more traditional, believing his job is to provide while I handle the home. But we were young, and I brushed it off, telling myself we'd find a balance eventually. Except we didn't. For most of our marriage, I've carried the household responsibilities entirely on my own. Cooking, cleaning, laundry, groceries, managing bills, taking care of our pets, everything. I've also worked full-time jobs throughout our marriage. When I asked him for help, even small things, his reaction was always dismissive. He'd say things like, "I'll just eat off paper plates then," or "I'll grab fast food so you don't have to deal with my dishes." I felt like I was talking to a brick wall. Anytime I tried to express that I was drowning, I'd leave the conversation feeling like the bad guy for not appreciating what he did do. Then came the bombshell. 2 years ago, he confessed to cheating while on deployment. I remember that night vividly. I'd picked him up from the airport, smiling and excited to see him, and the second we got home, he broke down. He admitted he'd been unfaithful. He said he felt like a failure as a husband and carried so much shame. I didn't know what to do. I felt blindsided and devastated. But instead of being able to process my own emotions, I found myself comforting him. "You're not a failure," I told him. "We can work through this." I'm in at the time. I was determined to save our marriage. We tried counseling. He quit after 2 sessions, saying it was too painful to relive his childhood trauma. After that, every attempt I made to talk about the cheating ended with me apologizing for making him feel worse. The hurt and betrayal never got resolved. For months later, I found out I was pregnant. After years of being told we couldn't conceive naturally, this was a miracle. I felt like maybe this was the sign we needed to start fresh, to rebuild our relationship. But instead of coming together, it felt like my pregnancy only highlighted how far apart we'd grown. Fast forward to now. Our baby is 13 months old. I've been staying home since the birth, but nothing has changed in terms of responsibilities. If anything, my workload has increased tenfold. I still do all the cooking, cleaning, laundry, grocery shopping, and pet care. On top of that, I'm breastfeeding through the night, handling bath time, feeding the baby during meals, cleaning up afterward. You name it. I'm utterly exhausted. A few weeks ago, I decided to bring it up again. I told him I was burnout and couldn't keep doing everything on my own. His response? I thought I was enough. Those words hit me like a punch to the gut. I told him, if this is what marriage looks like, then why are we even married? I could just get a job and do it all myself. I wasn't trying to threaten him. I was just being honest about how defeated I felt. After a long, emotional conversation, he reluctantly agreed to help more. But instead of genuinely stepping up, he's turned every act of help into a passive-aggressive performance. If he feeds the baby, he'll say, "I hope this is enough for you." If he puts away food after dinner, it's, "Am I doing enough now?" One day, we went grocery shopping together. I had the baby in one arm and reached for a few bags with the other. He stopped me saying, "No, I got it." I insisted, but he refused. As we walked inside, he muttered, "I hope breaking my back is enough for you." I can't win. Asking for help feels like begging for scraps. And even when I get them, it comes with strings attached. Last week, I mentioned divorce again. This time, he said something that shook me to my core. If we divorce, I'm not going to be involved in our child's life. It's all or nothing. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. How could he just abandon our child like that? But at the same time, it felt like another manipulation tactic to keep me from leaving. He claims he doesn't want a divorce, but his actions, and now his words, make me feel like he's not really interested in being a partner or a father. We're currently living overseas because of his military assignment. If we divorced, I'd move back to the States with our baby to be near family, while he'd stay here. The thought of my child growing up without a father breaks my heart. But the thought of staying in this marriage, where I feel invisible and unsupported, feels unbearable. ETA, more context. When we got married, he promised he'd share the load. He said he understood how important equality was. But over the years, every conversation about housework or emotional labor ended with me apologizing for being ungrateful. I convinced myself to stay because he doesn't drink, isn't physically abusive, and provides financially. I thought those were the essentials, and I should be thankful. But is that enough? Should I just settle for a marriage where my feelings and needs are constantly dismissed? The cheating was a breaking point I never fully recovered from. I stayed because I believe in our marriage and wanted to give it a chance. But even then, I felt like I was the only one trying to fix things. Now, with our baby, everything feels magnified. I don't want my child to grow up in a home where resentment and bitterness are the norm. At the same time, I can't shake the guilt of taking my baby away from their father, even if he's the one choosing not to be involved. I've been leaning toward trying counseling again, but I'm also making plans to leave if nothing changes. I still believe in marriage, but I'm starting to believe that staying in this one might be worse for me, and for my child, than walking away. So, Reddit, AITA for considering divorce?